change in schedule, and Josh's appearance here this afternoon, since we're afternoon. So Josh has a couple announcements, and we'll start again to talk when Levy gets here at 12:30. So just a reminder on the phone line, since I can hear that, there is some background noise. It's an open line, so please try to keep the background noise to a minimum, and we'll open up with Josh.
All right, good to see everybody today. Before I get into my remarks, I just wanted to take a moment. Obviously, we lost a couple big Illini folks last week, J.C. Caroline and Art Wyatt, and just wanted to take a moment to express our thanks to them for all that they've meant in the history of our athletic program, and obviously they've been incredibly influential to Illinois athletics, and I expect that will continue long after their passing. So our thoughts and prayers certainly with their families and loved ones, and they will have a very proud place in the pantheon of Illinois athletics for the rest of time. Two things to discuss today. I know we've already put out the announcements. One, of course, is the exciting news that we will be creating a Dick Butkus statue as part of our new football project. That will be located on the northeast side of the stadium over there, on the south side of the football performance center. I'm sorry, of the indoor facility. There'll be a little plaza on the entryway of the football building. The statue will be located there, greeting everybody who comes through the doors. It'll be done as the building is done in 2019. Geroge Lundeen, who did the statue of Grange on the west side, will do this statue as well. George was here recently, had the opportunity to be part of our Hall of Fame ceremonies, and had the chance to sit down with Dick. And so we're excited to once again get the benefit of his great ability and see his artistic interpretation of Dick out on the field. The reason for us is very simple. We've talked a lot with all of you and with many different people about perfecting that Illinois identity, wanting to understand who we are and how we represent ourselves. We've talked about it with the creation of the Hall of Fame. We've talked about it in the setting of several of our head coach hires. This is another great opportunity for us to solidify that Illinois identity. When you think about the University of Illinois, you think about Fighting Illini athletics, there's nobody who embodies that identity better than Dick Butkus. You think about toughness. You think about competitiveness. You think about loyalty, selflessness. All those things describe Dick Butkus. And so the opportunity to celebrate all that he has meant, certainly to this university, but also to the game of football in the form of a statue, was something that we were very, very excited about. We talked with Dick about this a year ago. We sat down with him when we brought him here on campus to tell him about the Hall of Fame. At the same time, we talked through the idea of a statue, and as you would imagine from Dick, those of you who've had a chance to spend some time with him, he was very deferential, very humble. He was more concerned about making sure that we celebrated his teammates than he was about celebrating himself. And I think that in and of itself is a great example of why he's the perfect person to have a statue greeting everybody who comes in and out of that new football performance center. I've had a lot of highlights since I got to come onto this job a year and a half or so ago. None of them, I think, has been as enjoyable for me as having a chance to build a relationship with Dick. And so I'm very grateful to him for our friendship, and look forward to continuing to celebrate him and keep him engaged with this program as we go forward. In terms of the nuts and bolts of it, we'll be working with George on the design. Anything that you might see now is purely in draft form. There's nothing to put out there. So we're working with Dick and with George to make sure that we get a design that everybody likes and enjoys, that I think embodies is some of those qualities that we talked about: toughness, competitiveness, certainly the way that Dick played on this field with reckless abandon. We want that to try and come through in the statue itself. We will have some future announcements related to the statue in terms of design, in terms of gifts. We have had a handful of people step forward in support of the project, and we're excited to honor them for their generosity at the appropriate time. But this is a great opportunity for us to celebrate a big part of our Illinois athletic tradition and certainly Illinois football. And so grateful to Dick for agreeing to be a part of it. It'll, of course, be a very different process than we went through with Red. Having Dick still alive and able to be an active part of this process, to be there as we unveil the statue, I think will be incredibly meaningful for his family, certainly meaningful for the Fighting Illini family as well. And so we're very much looking forward to having him back here and celebrating his great legacy when we unveil the statue for the first time. The second announcement is the rebirth, if you will, of the Missouri football series. We announced that this morning. It's a 4-game series starting in the year 2026. I know it's a little anticlimactic. The creation of this series doesn't start for 9 years. Just the reality of the world that we live in now with how far ahead of time we are scheduling football games. Obviously, it's a great rivalry for us, a chance to play an SEC opponent. As I think I said in the quote as part of the release, as we continue to grow this program, we need to project our schedule accordingly and be sure that we are building a stronger and stronger schedule as we move forward. We are right now scheduled to play this home and home. We'll start here in Champaign in 2026, and we'll alternate sites 27, 28, and 29. If there is an opportunity to take 1 or 2 of those games to St. Louis as the date draws near, it's something we'll evaluate. I don't know. The biggest challenge we have in St. Louis right now is we don't know where exactly we would play. It's hard to predict with the dome being down there without a primary tenant. It's hard to predict what the future of that dome will be 7, 8, 9 years down the road. And so we don't want to make any commitment there. You've also, of course, got Busch Stadium. Presents some challenges logistically in terms of the Cardinals' schedule. So we'll take a look at all that as the date draws nearer. But for now, we're very excited to bring them here to Champaign and then to return the trip to Columbia. I want to thank Jim Sturk, athletic director down at Missouri. We first talked about this at a meeting around the bragging rights game last December, and the conversation has progressed from there. And so we're very grateful to them for the partnership and look forward to a great series with them. With that, I'd be happy to answer any questions you guys might have.
Josh, were either of these ideas something that was in your mind when you first took over, or were they more something that came along and presented to you?
I didn't have them in mind when I took over. I don't think that either I didn't just create the theory of relativity or something. The idea of creating a Dick Butkus statue, the idea of playing Missouri in football, neither of those is a particularly earth-shattering idea. I think that the difference is taking it from an idea and making it into a reality, and that's something that we, I think, are going to really pride ourselves on as we work through our tenure here. Is not just coming up with good ideas, but hopefully executing those ideas in a way that allows our fans and our Illini Nation to rally around, and so that's been a fun part of this process.
Josh, obviously, Lovey, head coach, plays a big role in scheduling future games, but with Missouri and 9 Big Ten games, do you want to push up the level of competition even more with the other 2 games, or just kind of like it the way you guys are doing it?
The schedule's set, and we may have some additional tweaks here and there. I don't think we'll have anything huge, but we'll continue to look at playing probably one marquee Power 5 opponent, one Group of 5 team, and then potentially now with some change in policy from the Big Ten, look at some FCS opponents where it's feasible on the home schedule. So I think you'll see it start to come together that way. That's mostly how it shapes up on the games that we have on the books already, and I would anticipate it to stay mostly that same way.
Pat Fitzgerald has talked about playing 10 conference games. Is that ever going to happen in your mind as well? And would that be something you would favor?
I don't know. That's one that I haven't given a lot of thought to. I didn't know that is a position that Pat had put out there. I do think that we're fortunate in the Big Ten to have what I consider to be the most vibrant conference in the country. And it's the same perspective I brought when we started talking about playing 20 conference basketball games. Is we've got all these great schools here. Are we cheating ourselves out of an opportunity by not playing them as regularly as we would like? 10 games, a lot of games. But I think if that comes after some thought and intentionality around it, and there's great consensus that makes sense, then I would certainly be a happy participant in that conversation.
Would you consider putting the Hall of Fame in the area that the team will be moving out with the new facility?
It's a great question, and that building, the current building, we certainly do need to repurpose that. We've thought through a number of different scenarios. To be honest, we hadn't thought about putting the Hall of Fame in there, but that doesn't mean that it's not a great suggestion. We continue to brainstorm different solutions for the physical incarnation of the Hall of Fame, and we've got some different thoughts. But that's an interesting one that we should add to the list.
What's your next thing with Lovey? Will you meet with him postseason to kind of evaluate, and also will there be talk about staff changes then with you and him?
Lovey and I meet twice a week right now. We meet Sundays, Mondays, and then I usually try and make it out to at least one practice. And of course, I see him over the course of the game, either on travel or after the game immediately. So we're in regular communication. I think we will certainly sit down when the season's over and debrief about the year as a whole, and we'll go from there.
Josh, you said living through a rebuild season, or whatever you want to call this, is more difficult than actually knowing it beforehand, but what would you tell fans about this program right now after this tough season?
I think the message for me is don't waver. Don't falter in your belief. We have to continue to believe in what's happening here. And really building a major college Power 5 football program, it's a test of wills. It's a test of internal fortitude. It's so often I think people fail to cross the finish line when they have a particular goal because they stop running. We can't stop running. We have to continue to believe in what's happening here. I think one thing that a lot of you guys know that I'm a runner. I use that term very loosely. I waddle around sometimes for exercise. I haven't run a lot of races. It's not why I do it, but I do run occasionally in these big races. And before I'd ever done one, I never realized that, the gun sounds, the clock starts. If you're in a race with 10,000 people, it may take you 2, 3, 4 minutes just to get to the start line before it starts to really count. And I think sometimes people think, well, you make a coaching change, the gun sounds, the clock starts, but what they fail to understand is that everybody starts at a different place. And so to carry that race analogy through, some programs start 5 seconds behind the start line, some programs start 30 seconds behind the start line, other programs start 3 minutes behind the start line. Our challenge here over the last 2 years has been getting back to the start line. We've had a lot of work to do, a lot of heavy lifting in terms of creating a culture, upgrading the roster, getting our people in the right places. Obviously, we've got some facility challenges. There have been a lot of hurdles that have been in front of us, and the last 2 years has really been about knocking down those hurdles and putting us in a place to run the race. And I feel very confident that we're getting to that place now, that we can start to see the light at the end of the tunnel. We are building something here that is going to be incredibly powerful, incredibly exciting. And the last thing we need people to do now is to stop running. We have to continue the course. We have to force ourselves to be disciplined in our thinking, to continue to be positive. There's a lot of great stuff that happened out on that football field this year. You can put great 18-year-olds out there, and they're still going to get their tails whipped by average 22-year-olds. That's the nature of football. We played more young players than any team in the country in significant roles, as starters, as reserves, and then you add on top of that a whole bunch of them got hurt and weren't able to play significant minutes the way that we'd like them to. So there's a lot of good things that are happening with Illinois football right now. You add on top of that our facility, the re-engagement of our alumni. There's a lot of pieces to this puzzle that have fallen into place here over the last 12 months in particular that I think we can all feel very good about as we head toward the future of Illinois football. And so if I have a message, do not waver. Believe in what's happening here. Continue to be a part of the process. And I promise you, when we get through the finish line, it will feel that much better because people have chosen to be a part of it from the beginning.
Josh, you've got the Grange statue and you're going to have the Butkus statue. Are there other individuals on your radar that might be statue-worthy down the road?
It's an interesting question. If I had a list, Mark, I don't know that I would share it with you. Potentially, sure. I'm never going to close that door. I think it's a nice tradition. It's a great way to honor some of these people who have come through and made just an indelible impact on our athletic program. So you never say never, but I would tell you that it's not like we have an active statue list in my top drawer of my desk. It's just something that we contemplate from time to time.
The renderings of the Performance Center that were released the last time you were here, like if you zoomed in close enough on the one that showed the entrance, it had a statue there. Was that maybe a little Easter egg for Eagle Eye
I've heard
viewers?
about that. I've heard that was in there. The one caveat I would give to that particular comment is again, that's merely a placeholder to show where it will go. And so anybody who's really trying to, and I haven't seen the big blown up view, but that's not at all probably what it will look like, the statue itself.
Sure.
But yeah, if people were able to find that, we're not opposed to some little teasers out there.
Dick is nowadays showy guys. How do you react? You said he was humbled, which would be him. But what else did he say? Don't do that, or any of that kind of stuff, or no?
He did, yeah.
Yeah.
He certainly, as you guys who know him well, he's an incredibly humble person, and he was moved. And the one thing we've all seen from Dick is he's very emotional, and he got emotional when we had the opportunity to talk to him about this, and I think he sees it as a team recognition, which again I think speaks to his personality and the quality of his values. But we didn't necessarily have to break his arm, but we had to twist it a little bit to convince him that this was a great opportunity for us to celebrate him, and one that would benefit ultimately the University of Illinois.
And when the time comes to have the unveiling and all that, I assume it'll be a kind of big deal, like what would happen with Grange, similar.
I would anticipate that, yes.
Okay.
So when you set a football series 9 years away, what do you do in the interim? I mean, do you just kind of put that on the shelf for a few years? I mean, because it's kind of down the road quite a bit.
It's down there a ways. It's down there a ways. We won't spend a lot of time on it for the next few years, but I would anticipate as we start to get kind of into that funnel, 3-4 years out, we'll probably start thinking more about locations. We'll start thinking more around sponsorship. We'll start thinking around how do we create more of an environment around the game, really ratcheting up the rivalry feel of it. But yeah, we're not going to start doing any of that next spring. It'll be a while. We'll get the game on the books. The contracts are signed, and as we get nearer to it, then we'll start getting more into the nuts and bolts of what that'll look like.
Did you play then?
I did not.
Okay.
No, we
You
started
just missed,
right
okay.
after I finished.
Okay.
Yeah.
So why was that important to you to restart this?
It was important. I think you only have a few geographic rivalries, and obviously with them being similarly positioned in a lot of ways, I think of them as a peer in terms of budget, in terms of visibility, in terms of state university, and we know what a great success the series was in terms of fan interest when we did it in the 2000s, and it's just a great chance to bring two great conferences together, the SEC, the Big Ten, to have the proximity that we do to Columbia, a lot of overlapping recruiting areas, a lot of overlapping fan bases, and so the chance to marry all that up together just made a lot of sense.
Say the Dome is still in St. Louis, that's a possibility, but would you prefer the dynamic of the fanfare of a home and home, or would you like to have it in St. Louis?
I don't know that I have a preference standing here today. I'm excited about the home and home. I like the idea of bringing big games into our venues. I think that's important as we continue to try and grow this program, all of our programs. The more we can do to bring powerful, impactful competitions into our own venues, I think that's a good thing. But I also understand, again, having lived it, I did attend some of the games in St. Louis. I know how exciting that was for our fans, and the neutral site opportunity is never something to be dismissed out of hand. And so as the date gets closer and we see what opportunities are available, then we'll weigh those out and figure out what makes the most sense.
Seeing this be successful, this being on the books now, and then the DePaul game on Friday for men's basketball, there's a lot of excitement for that. Is there any way that in basketball as well, you start trying to schedule some of these rivalries that haven't been played in years or decades?
We don't schedule as far out in basketball as we do in football, and the coaches have a lot more activity in the scheduling because it happens so much sooner. But it is something that we sit down and talk with them about scheduling philosophy. What are the things that we'd like to see accomplished through the schedule, and then we get engaged on some of the more marquee games. So I do think there's an opportunity there to continue to grow our schedule in basketball. We've talked with Coach Underwood and his staff about that, and I think that we'll see that in some of the future schedules as they're put together.
Guys, is football at Bush, you said, is problematic. Is it not possible or possible?
It's not impossible.
Okay.
It's challenging because the game will be played early in September.
Right.
Baseball's obviously still happening, and
Sure.
so you'd have to coordinate it with Major League Baseball to find a window where they're basically gone for 2 weeks, so they can resod the field. I mean, there's a whole bunch of steps that have to happen.
Sure.
And the Cardinals may or may not be real amenable to that if they're in the pennant race and we're putting them on the road for 2 weeks as they're heading down the home stretch. So there's a lot of moving parts on that one. It'd be fun. I think it'd be a lot of fun
Sure.
to play them in Busch Stadium. But unless you were playing in November, it's hard to get that done in September.
That has not been talked about, like pushing the game back to maybe October after.
No, it'll be in September.
Okay,
It'll be in
sure.
September for sure. We've set the dates, and that's when the game will be played, and we'll just have to try and make the venues work accordingly.
What about Wrigley and the game with Northwestern? Do you ever see that happening again?
We never say never. It's not a conversation we've had, not necessarily a conversation we'd be opposed to. I don't see us playing up there in lieu of one of our home games here at Memorial. If Northwestern were interested in moving one of their games out of Ryan Field over to Wrigley, I think that's something we'd be willing to talk about. But we haven't had any conversations to that effect.
Anything else for Josh? All right.
Thanks, everybody.
Thank you, Josh.
Thank you.
And